Good morning and welcome to the next episode of the Grey Nomad Knits. I'm coming to you from Perth, Western Australia. It's a very dim and gloomy and wet day here today. Our first day of spring the other day was absolutely beautiful, pure sunshine, and it was warm enough to sit outside. But today it's back to winter. But I'm not complaining because I love it like this, and I will soak up every minute of it while I can because I know we have a long hot summer just around the corner. I'd like to thank you for all my returning viewers for coming back to watch again, to share my little corner of the knitting world. And I also have a few new subscribers. I think it might be mostly thank you to the plug Andrea gave me on Fruity Knitting, so a big thank you to Andrea as well. So welcome to any new subscribers. I hope you enjoy my channel, and if you have any questions or want to make any comments, please feel free to do so. Okay, I think that's everything. I am on Ravelry as JillyMG and on Instagram as JillyMG60, I think, or it could be the other way around. I'm taking drugs still for the shingles and it does mess my brain around a little bit. So it's one, or if one doesn't work, try the other one. Okay, I'm going to go straight into finished objects. Now, as my returning viewers will know, I have my own little shop now. In Australia, we have our own version of Etsy, and it's called Made It, M-A-D-E-I-T, and only Australian makers can sell on there, but anyone from anywhere in the world can purchase. It's just that unfortunately the international shipping rates, as everybody knows, worldwide are very expensive. So anyway, if you're overseas and you'd like to purchase one of my bags, send me a message and we'll see what we can do. But I do have a new bag I've just added to my shop. So these are just little crocheted bags for shopping or going to the market, whatever you like. I put a little pop of apricot in this one because we are coming into spring here in Australia. I'm also now putting a little button enclosure on the top of my bags. So if you have a lot of shopping and you just want to secure it a bit more, you can just pop this little crochet loop around the button and that'll keeps it all nice and secure. And the straps are long enough to put over your shoulder. They don't look terribly long, but crochet stretches. So once you put stuff in it, it will weigh it down a lot. So that's my next market bag, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I also made a beautiful blue one that a friend of mine ordered because she wanted to gift it to her daughter-in-law. So I'll insert a photo of that here. I have another finished object, and it wasn't anything too dramatic. I made a pair of socks. I think I showed you the start of these on my last episode. I had this lovely yarn. Now, I'll see if I've got the label to show you. Just a moment. Okay, I found the label. Now, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Koigu or Koigu. This is it here. Now it is I'm just looking for, this is actually 100% merino. So it will be really interesting to see how they wear because there's no nylon at all in this. It was beautiful to knit with. It comes in 50 gram skeins, so I bought two. And, I haven't bought what's left. I've still got quite a bit left. I'd say I really only used a little bit of my second skein. So I'd probably say I only used about 70 grams maybe of the wool. It doesn't have colour names, but the colour code is P for Peter 627. So I don't know if you can still get these. It says on the label, hand painted. Each dye lot is an original painting. I'm looking to see where it looks like it's Canadian. It's got some French writing on the label, so that would make sense. I bought this from the shop in Perth who shall not be named. because I do not shop there anymore. But I'm going to show you first off the socks. Now I don't have very good sock blockers, I'm afraid. So, and also I have very short feet. Here in Australia, I only take really a 6.5. So my sock blockers don't fit properly. They're too big for my socks. So I cut a little bit off the toes of them this morning because they're made out of this thick sort of cardi stuff. So I cut a little bit of it off, but they don't fit terribly well on them all the same. This one looks the best, so I'll show you this one. So I'm really happy with how they turned out. I used an umbrella toe, and this heel is the slip stitch where you alternate at each row. I think it might be called the Eye of Partridge heel or a heel flap or something. I did a square, I'll take them off in a minute, square heel turn. I just follow Kay Jones's recipe from the Bakery Bears. I've bought a couple of her patterns in the past, and her patterns are so well written that I find I can now just use her directions for the heel flap, heel toe and heel flap, heel and toe. And I can use the instructions for those on whatever sock I want. And the rest of it I just made up myself. I was going to do just plain stocking stitch because it's a very busy yarn, but I couldn't resist putting a bit of a pattern in. So I went through my Japanese stitch, oh my words are terrible today, my Japanese stitch dictionary and found this. Now as you can see, it's just plain on the rest of the sock. That yarn's beautiful, isn't it? I love it. So what I did was I went through my Japanese stitch dictionary. That's this one here. So it's by Hitomi Shida, and there's a translation in it by Gail Roan. She was once featured on Fruity Knitting. As usual, that is how I discovered this book. Oh, that's my daughter popping out there. She's my bookmark. Gosh, that was a long time ago. Nicole, I hope you're not watching. I think she was in primary school, so she was probably about 9 or 10. She's 36 now. School photos. I left that out to give to her, and it was the first thing I could find to mark my page. Now, I used this one, so if anybody has this book, it's on page 57, and I'm just going to cover this side up with all the chart. I don't think there we go. So what I did was I just took this central panel here, disregarded the sides. Although I think now that this whole thing would look lovely on the front of the sock. But I just did this and put it like on alternate sides. So one sock's got it down the left side, the other sock's got it down the right side. And I'm so happy with how it turned out. So if anyone's got this book and wants to make some socks that are just a little bit different to everyone else's, I highly recommend having a look through this. There's so many beautiful patterns in here where you could just take, I mean, even this one, look, there's a lovely, you could just use that central cable. So beautiful. I'm going to make another pair of socks now, but I'll talk about those later. But yeah, so there's some beautiful, I highly recommend this book. And even if you want to have a jumper that's very different to everyone else's, you can just find a small piece of a stitch pattern out of here and highlight that. You could just put a blob of it in the middle, or a panel across the bottom, or just a little bit at the top, or even an all over pattern. It's great fun looking through this book and thinking of all the options that you could do. So back to these. This is the other one, but I couldn't get it to fit on the blocker very well. So in Kay's tutorials, she talks about how you do the gusset here with no holes, because as any sock knitter knows, it's very easy to get a hole here. And the simple answer to it is, instead of picking up one stitch in the gap, you just pick up two. And you don't have to decrease it or anything like that. It just means you have an extra round of decreases in this section. But it works really well. I don't know if you can see that. That there is just, I think, where I ran out of yarn on the second sock and had to join it in. So as you can see, it's holeless. No holies, nothing holy about my socks. And I just love this pattern so much. I honestly thought this yarn was going to be too busy for this sort of pattern, but I thought I'd give it a go for a pattern repeat and see how I liked it, and I absolutely loved it. So I'm very, very happy with those. So that's my sunset socks, I'm going to call them, because they are the colours of a West Australian sunset. Okay, so that of course is all my finished objects. As you know, I'm the world's slowest knitter. Before I move on to my whips, now that I've spoken about the socks, I wanted to just mention to you about my DPN drama that I had with the broken needle. Now, for anyone who didn't see my last podcast, I had bought a beautiful set of Leica DPNs, and they were not cheap, but I thought I like to use DPNs when I'm knitting socks. Sometimes I like magic loop as well, but it's nice to have a change. And I like to change it up a bit because I think it's good for your hands to use different needles and have different movement. So I went out, and I didn't have a full set of 2.5 DPNs. That's the size I use for my socks. So I went over to this particular shop in Perth and bought a set, and cast on eagerly that night, and I think I was only on the second row, and one of the needles snapped in my hand. So I emailed the shop straight away to see if I could come over and get a replacement needle, but I didn't hear anything back. So after about 2 weeks, I thought I'd better go over and see them. And then COVID hit our house, so I couldn't go. So I rang them, and they were very pleasant on the phone, the lady I spoke to, but I know this lady was not the owner. I spoke to her, and she goes, yes, we've got it all in hand and someone will get back to you. So I waited another week, I think, and I still didn't hear anything. So I decided to go over there, and I've never been spoken to in such a rude manner. I walked in there, and she told me, for all she knew, I could have sat on them, and that wooden needles break and you just have to deal with it. And that, you know, I said to her, do I pay all this money for a set of needles that I can only look at? And she goes, well, if you keep breaking them, you'll keep coming back wanting replacements. Anyway, to cut a long story short, in the end, she agreed to replace them with a set of the 2.5 millimeter size. So she went over to have a look, and of course she didn't have any in that size. So she said that she would order some from the company, who are all the way away in America, and it'll take months and months to get here, and if they even do, because they may not have that size in stock. Well, I think you could have probably seen the fire coming out of my ears and mouth and nose, because I was fuming. I went out, got in my car, rang my friend Charmaine and had a vent to her, got home, and I sent Leica themselves an email. And within hours I had a reply, and they asked me to just send a photo of the broken needle, which I did. And 2 weeks later I had a brand new package of, I think they sent me 4 replacement needles. So I'm going to give Leica, the Leica company, a huge shout out, because their customer service was amazing. And they also told me that the needles have a 5-year warranty. So if I have any more problems, I'm just to let them know, and they will replace them. And I've had no more problems since, and they are a joy to knit with. I don't have them with me at the moment, but you know the ones I mean, the driftwood needles. They are absolutely beautiful. So I highly recommend them, but I will not recommend the shop, who I shall not name. On a bright note, I lost a crochet hook. Well, that's not really a bright note, but the good thing is it gave me an excuse to go to another wool shop here in Perth. This one I am going to name, and it's Calico and Ivy. If anybody wants any knitting tools in Perth, or some beautiful yarn, or if you want to sew and buy some Liberty fabrics, They are the shop to go for. They are amazing. Their customer service level is the best I've ever known in a wool shop in Perth. So I wanted to get, the hook I couldn't find was a size 4. I actually went to our Spotlight store, which if you're in America, I think is a bit like Michael's. So I went down there and they only had, out of all their crochet hooks, they only had one 4mm crochet hook. And it was the old-fashioned aero metal hook. And even that was $8 or $9. Anyway, I bought it because I wanted to do some crochet that night and I needed it. So I came home, stuck it in my blanket that you'll see in a minute to start crocheting, and the cotton just wouldn't slide along it. It just gripped it. And I thought, oh, if I keep persevering with this, I'm going to end up doing some serious damage to my wrist. So I put it away and I decided the next day I would go to Calico and Ivy. Now, where I live in Perth, it's about a 40-minute drive to this shop, and it's worth every minute of that drive because it's so beautiful there. But I thought, if this is the most popular hook size in Perth, they may not have any either, so I thought I would ring first. And the lady answered the phone, yes, we have them, please come down. So I did. They had so many, and the lady was so helpful, showing me which ones she finds best in her hands, which ones hurt her hands, and she was wonderful. So I bought 2 size 4mm, I bought 2 5mm and 2 5.5mm. They are the sizes I use the most. So now I have this lovely collection. Oh, look, I've got them all. I'm going to rearrange them so they look like a little flower posy. I have this lovely collection of crochet hooks. This is a different type that she recommended. I'm not using this one at the moment because it's a 5.5 and I don't need it for anything at the moment. But the way I hold my hook like this, can you see? I used to hold them like this, but now I hold them like this. And it's really comfy because your thumb just fits on this bit here. And I'm actually using one of those on a bag I'm making at the moment. So I'm really happy. So I ended up buying 6 hooks, 2, 4, 6. Some of these are from a clover set that I used to have. They are all clover hooks. So I took the ones out of the set. Clover hooks, what I love about them are the sizes are so clearly marked on them. So I took them out of the zip up set because they used to all fall out every time I opened it anyway. I've got them all here and I keep them in my little Doctor Who zip up bag, which was made for me by Steel City Stitches. I think she's in America and I'm not sure if she's still going. I reckon she probably might be. And it's got this lovely sparkly lining inside. I don't know if you can catch the glitter on that. So now I keep all my crochet hooks in there and I don't lose them. And of course, I was in here having a tidy up yesterday. Our house is in chaos because we're having some renovations done to our bathrooms. And our bathroom is just 2 doors that way. So we've been piling stuff up everywhere. And of course, I came in the other day, turned around and saw my lost crochet hook on the floor. But that's okay. I now have 3 4mm hooks, so I'll be good to go now for the future. Now, speaking of crochet, here is the progress on my blanket. It's getting very big, so I am going to maybe take a photo and put it in. I don't want to stand up because I haven't got much room in here. I've got little markers in for my corners because sometimes at night I don't have a very bright light to crochet by, and these ones are easy to see. I'll put it up there where you can see through because that's a 2-chain corner, but sometimes they're only a 1-chain corner, and I like to be sure that I'm putting my hook in the right place. So I'm just going to show you where I'm up to. I've just got it folded in half How lovely are these colours looking? So I've finished with the grey now. I'm going to keep going with this lovely plummy cerise colour. It's almost like a real, it's not really purple. It's like a violet, a deep violet. It's hard to describe, but it's certainly looking very nice. So I hope you can see that okay. I will go and spread it out on my floor in a minute and take a progress shot. I'm really enjoying it. I think I've told you before, I have learnt so much making this, and this round that I'm doing at the moment, I did have to look at the video tutorial that came with the pattern just briefly for the beginning of the round, because I wasn't 100% sure that I was doing it right. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist with things like this, and I wanted to make sure I was doing it right. And it turns out that I was. So I'm really proud of myself because I'm hardly having to use the tutorial at all now. I often still have to refer to the written tutorial to make I forget the cluster stitches and the popcorn stitches and all that sort of thing. So I do still have to refer to the written instructions, but as far as the videos go, I hardly have to use them at all now. So I think I'm progressing from absolute scared to attempt anything beginner crocheter to one with some more intermediate experience now. I'm pretty proud of that. Isn't that beautiful? Hooked on Sunshine is the company who designs this, and I can't think of her name now. They've also got a wonderful Facebook page, and if you are making some of their blankets, they have a assist fairy who helps you with any questions, which is fantastic because I've asked a lot of questions. So that's my Phoenix blanket, and I'm really happy with it. I've got one more colour to introduce, but the rows are taking a long, long time now, and to get around 4 of them in one round, it takes about 2 weeks nearly, because I don't do it, I can't crochet for too long, because I'm crocheting my bags as well. If I crochet for too long, you know, you get sore shoulders, and I'm getting to that age now where I feel it in my bones, or in my waters, as Kath and Kim would say. Kath and Kim's an Aussie comedy show. Right, I have one last work in progress to show you, and that is my Marie Wallin Wild Rose jumper in this beautiful bag that her kits arrive in. I'm just keeping these bits of wool I'm using at the moment. These are the skeins I'm using just now, and I'm going to clear out my little knitting trolley beside my chair and put them all in there so that they're easier to get to when we're watching TV. I do actually do this while we're watching TV. I managed to, I don't know, I've got the chart on my iPad using Knit Companion, so I have the row I'm working on very well highlighted. That makes life a lot easier. Now this pattern is a tunic top. I think I showed you this the last time. See if I can find, here it is. But I have taken out, I don't want it this long because this clinging to my rear end will not be a good look. So I'm making it more of a jumper length. So I've taken out this stripe and this stripe, and I started on the 3rd stripe. So I'm doing like, I did the band and then from here up. So all of this will be the same, it'll just be missing this little bit here. I'm also going to go, when I get to the underarms, I'm going to do the rest of it in a size larger needle, because I want to do the sleeves in a larger needle to give myself a bit more wriggle room. And if I want the sleeve cap to fit properly, because this is set in sleeves, they will have to match in size. So I'm not clever enough to work out all the calculations, so I'm just going to go with the numbers in the pattern, except that I'll do it in a size larger needle and hope for the best. also, the construction is it's just knit in pieces and then seamed at the end, which I love because I haven't got a massive weight to lift and turn all the time. I get a sore arm just here, and when I'm having to lift a heavy weight like that blanket, I really feel it. So this is great knitting in pieces because you've only got that little bit to manage all the time. Anyway, this is it. It's curling over, of course, at the top. That's how much I've done. And I think last podcast I was only down to about here. I am a bit late doing my podcast. It's just last week we had so many noisy tradesmen in our house. It would have been impossible. So I thought I'll wait till it's quieter. So this is it. And this is using Marie Wallin's own British Breeds yarn, and I thought they would be really hard and scratchy, but it's like knitting with silk. It's just so luxurious and soft. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a joy to work with. So yeah, it's really lovely. See the halo there, and it's quite a loose spin, as you can see. I don't know anything about spinning or how it's done. And it is quite loose, and it occasionally splits, but that doesn't bother me in the slightest because I am not a knitter who knits like this and looks at the TV or takes it to the movies, or I like to look at my knitting while I'm doing it. And I miss a lot of important parts on British crime dramas because I'm always looking at my knitting. But the beauty of watching them in a streaming fashion is you can rewind and rewatch the bit that you missed. So this is my Wallin Wild Rose. Isn't it beautiful? I think that's going to be my thumbnail. And I'm absolutely loving it. She's a genius. Okay, it's time to have a new cast on, seeing as I finished my socks, and I'm going to make another pair of socks. I like to have one project now on my needles that's not going to take too long. This time I'm going to use the West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply, and this is in the pheasant colourway. Now, the colours, it's just really bad light today. It's so beautiful. This is in a range where they feature all different birds, and I've knitted the ones in the owl colourway before, but this is lovely, and it's got this beautiful green, peacocky greeny bluey shade. So I'm going to do a contrast heel, toe and ribbing, and I'm going to use this green. It's not quite as turquoise as I would like, but I think it'll be perfectly all right. It'll be a nice match, don't you think? Now this yarn I'm definitely going to just do a plain stocking stitch sock. I just do 64 stitch sock, and I'm going to have a look at Kay's tutorial for her new short row heel, because that looks like it's really nice when you're doing a contrasting colour. So that will be on my needles in the next couple of days, and I'll hopefully have some progress to show you the next time. Now, Nomad Lifestyle. We finally got away in our caravan. We went to a place just north of Perth called Yanchep, and it's a national park, and they have a campground there. There's no power and there's no water, but our caravan has solar panels, and we filled up the water tanks before we left, and we still came home with water. We went on a Friday morning, stayed Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and came home Monday. It's just beautiful, and where we live north of Perth anyway, and Yanchep, it only took us with the caravan 25 minutes to get there. We thoroughly enjoyed it. It was so nice to see all the kangaroos. We went for they've got some beautiful wetlands there, so we went and sat on the banks of the wetlands, and we saw turtles in the water. I couldn't photograph them because there was too much reflection, but it was just lovely. And on the Friday it was so peaceful there. come the weekend, of course, it was really busy with people coming up for the day. But the caretaker of the park told us to try the Yanchep Inn for a roast dinner on the Sunday. So we did that, and it was beautiful, and that's a magnificent old building. I don't know when it was built, but I just felt like I was walking into an Agatha Christie novel. It was so beautiful. So we're actually going back there tomorrow, taking our daughter up there because it's Father's Day here tomorrow. So we're going up there for Sunday lunch tomorrow, which is going to be just lovely. So I'm going to finish here, and I'm going to put a few more pictures of our trip to Yanchep. I did put a couple at the beginning. I'll put a few more in here, and I'll also put in some of the photos of what I've been showing you. So have a lovely week, and I shall see you in about a month's time, depending on where we are and what's going on. And happy knitting, everyone. And I don't think I've forgotten anything this time because I wrote notes. So wherever you are in the world, stay safe, and if you can, stay healthy, and happy knitting, and I'll see you next time. Bye. And yes, I'm back. I forgot something. I wanted to mention to you that my daughter is making some beautiful Christmas ornaments for sale. Christmas isn't that far away, and they are in her Etsy shop, Miss Melrose Art, and I'll leave the link in the show notes, but I am going to just put a few photos of them in here because she has put so much work into them, and they are stunning, and she uses beautiful crystals to make them sparkle. So yeah, have a look, see if you like them, and if you do, pay her little shop a visit. Bye.